Listen to the feeling that calls you into silence. Feel my love surrounding you and know that you are home. I'm always with you, and as the memory of your holiness returns to your awareness, you will remember me. Wake up, my precious child. So long you have been in such a deep slumber, dreaming that we were apart and you couldn't find your way home. Thank you. Welcome, Kirsten Buxton, to the Institute for Advanced Astonishment. So nice to see you. We've tried this for a while, and I'm glad you're here.
Oh, thank you so much, James. I'm so grateful to join with you and be able to just share, see what comes through us from the Spirit for all. So,
Wait, and you also wrote recently, "May we never lose wonder," and that's what this is all about. And so, advanced astonishment for me is the same as the mystical experience or the awakening experience, and trying to, because I was such an atheist skeptic in my life, trying to make that bridge to someone that might not be able to hear the words like the Jesus. They think of a hippie rabbi and they don't know what you're saying, or the Course is saying about Jesus and Christ and God. And so here and when you talk, I'll just try to translate it into something that might not bother a skeptic that can. So when I first read the beautiful book, The Course in Miracles, I think I threw it in the garbage after a few weeks, and then I pulled it back out, and then I gave it away, and then I bought another copy, and over. And my teacher was the same way. In the beginning, the language is tough, and the book, I was fumbling for a word, and David Hopmeister said, I think the word was, it doesn't compromise. It's non-compromise.
mm-hmm.
And it's like a sharp sword, like the real Zen books, very sharp, and it won't give an inch. So if I can, I used to cross the word God out when I read it and write source. It took years until I can, and now it feels like I wrote it.
mm Oh, that's it. And then you fall in love with how uncompromising it is, and you're like, you
Yes.
wouldn't want it any other way.
No. It's the true love is the uncompromising. And
It
you
is.
realize that anything that rubs you, your whole book, Kirsten wrote this book called I Married a Mystic. Do you have the book there? I don't know if you have a copy. I have
It's
mine's digital. So
downstairs.
uh,
Oh, okay.
it's a beautiful cover. And I Married a Mystic, where you go into your whole journey, and it's so beautiful. And so it's like you detail, like Saint Augustine, or like in philosophy, there's a word, a phenomenologist, where you
Mm.
go through every little thing and every ache and every pain, and you're so honest about it.
Yeah.
And that's what's so beautiful. I mean, down to, if we can get into that later,
Yeah.
um, um, judgment about clothing, or brushing the teeth and making noises, and all these different things, and how these attack thoughts come in, and the judgment, and how you were released from it eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's really what the journey is. It's about releasing every scrap of judgment from the mind and all scraps of guilt and leaving no stones unturned. So it can seem like, really, I really have to go there with even these little things that seem so insignificant and so meaningless. But if they're disturbing our peace of mind, it's not meaningless to heal. It is so
Yeah.
meaningful. And that's what I had to learn, of how valuable it was to give full attention to what was disturbing my peace, so that I could truly heal, and with no spiritual bypass,
Right.
no pushing away, no avoidance. Just, it's all got to be brought up so it can be seen. And yeah. and let
Yeah,
go.
it's like you said, it's not, they seem like little, maybe vain thoughts or guilt thoughts or whatever they are. But it's like the Dalai Lama said, if you think these little things, if you think a little thing doesn't have a big effect, try sleeping naked in a room with a mosquito, you know?
That's it.
And that's what it was. I could see in your book so beautifully. And it's so universal to all of us that these thoughts come in, and we want to be angry at our teacher or whoever's telling us the truth. The ego just says, no, it doesn't feel like when David would say, don't recycle the the cat cans. And you were all about saving the planet, and it was such a beautiful vision you had of, you do the right thing. He seemed careless about it, but down it was something more.
Yeah, yeah. I was learning what was valuable from what was valueless, and like on a spiritual level, because
Yeah,
my value was so associated with, yeah, this world is my home, and I want to take care of it. I want to heal. I want it to heal. But I started
yes,
very young with that. I started at the age of 9, trying like recycling, vegetarian, before anyone that I knew was vegetarian or recycling. So it was a bit of a
right.
futile mission at that time.
Healthy,
Yeah,
organic,
yeah,
beautiful, all of
yeah,
that. Yeah, which
yeah,
is
yeah.
beautiful, and
Hmm.
it's a
Yeah.
beautiful.
There's something very pure underneath it in terms of healing and service, but it needed to go through a purification in my own mind
Yeah,
of releasing my identity with the fear and the guilt associated with it. Because what I found, of course, by the time I was 13, I was into Greenpeace and save the whales, save the snails, save everything I could. And I just ended up depressed, which is
yes,
how just about everyone in this world gets when they're trying so hard and they're wanting so much for the world to be a happy place. And yet it's just one thing after another comes up. Like you just get the dolphins saved and then the whales are endangered. You get the
right.
whales sorted and then, it's just one distraction, huge distractive situation after the next. If your mind is not aware of going within and seeing and asking, like, what is this bringing up for me? Like, how is this my mind healing? I'm not responsible for the error out there. Otherwise, that's very depressing and overwhelming. It's not as if I'm personally to blame for everything that's going wrong, but I am responsible for how I feel and how I perceive it. And then that's what I
Yeah,
learned was so key to the whole journey. Empowerment is coming back to where I do have some control, which is over the direction of my thinking and
yeah.
this relationship, of healing.
And you hear that in so many great teachers, like a Gandhi, who would say, like, be the change. You
Hmm.
be the, change your, and you hear that, you be the change, and then everything. But it takes a while until you actually experience at least once something, and then that flip in the perception, you correct it, and then but until then, it's like Plato's cave, where the Greeks are, the prisoners are chained,
Yeah.
and they can't turn their heads. So they're looking at that wall, and there are shadows and all sorts of, little bunny rabbits and things, but it's from the light behind, and the Greeks are putting on a show. And until you turn, which is like a turn within, you turn around and see the light, you can make a lifetime of trying to correct the shadows. And
Hmm.
that's, you have to go to
Yeah.
the mechanism, to the source, to the whole thing.
That's
And you
it.
lay that out beautifully.
Yeah, that's it. And like you said, we have to be convinced through our own experience. Like you have to be convinced
Yeah.
because we're then so deeply immersed in what we believe and we've invested so much. There's a lot of
Yes.
heartache involved with with what we've been trying to fix and heal. And you can't just it's pretty rare for someone to just walk away from it. Like you have to have a very strong experience of something else that's so compelling and convincing that it's like, oh wow, there is an alternative. There is another way that is healing, that does involve healing and is going to serve, but my way, I had to see my way of trying to serve and fix and heal was not working. I reached a point where I could see, like, I'm not getting anywhere with this.
We're suffering. So suffering, I think I noticed two major ways. One is suffering and one is pursuing the truth, whether it's through philosophy or, you're reading, and I'm sure you were doing both, but the suffering, because you went through some accidents and some things that you were ready. It's not funny, but it's suicide. You wanted to dissolve the ego, but you almost, and that's the tricky thing with the suicidal thought. You wrote it beautifully. You said you wanted to end it like for real, like really end the body, and right then everything changed, and you were invited to a decade dinner with Hopmeister.
Yeah, there were several points like that along the way, where, I really saw that, like, the death wish in my mind. I saw the ego push in my mind when it came up, and it was right before I had an accident.
Yes.
And
Oh,
I was
before. Okay.
before, yeah, like I was skiing, or I was mountain biking, and I had this thought come up, I don't want to be here anymore.
Right.
And I could feel it. There was like this, oh my God, I don't want to be here anymore. And then I had this accident, where I ended up with broken wrists and a head injury, with brain damage, which resulted in chronic fatigue, which at the time was devastating, but that was the launch. It was, into I couldn't run away. I was too physically broken to just keep, trying to fix and heal and change and get on with my life. It was a point of stop, and you don't have a choice now. Like I felt held very strongly in being unable to do anything else. And I had to go within and face my mind and my thoughts and start on this, healing process, which led to being a spiritual journey.
So beautiful.
Mm.
It reminds me of Hafiz, the Sufi, would say something like, sometimes love has to turn you upside down, hold you by the legs, and shake the nonsense out.
Yeah.
And it seems like horror, this accident, but it stopped you. Like even Ram Dass was spinning too much, and a stroke, and he said, God stroked me, and the stroke brought him in calmer, and then he really became a beautiful teacher.
I really can see that later on, when you really go through the through the healing of it. At the time, all you can experience is the devastation. It's like my whole self-concept, my life was just halted and broken, and I thought I might never heal from it.
Yeah.
And
you were in a nightmare.
It was, yeah.
And it's like the beautiful Kierkegaard would say, life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forward. So you live it forward, and then you can get it later when you look backwards.
Yeah. But I'm remembering what you brought up from my book, where I was having this suicidal thought, and then there was a dinner with David Hoffmeister. So I could share that parable, if you like.
And if you could share also I think it was 5 times, and I think we go through and it's everything you wrote was so, to me, universal, but we push it down, or we don't recognize that 5 times you were asked for a second, like, are you going to the peace house, I think? Yeah. And you were like, no. And we all do, no. And after 4 times, you finally came to the yes. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I had at that point, I had that first accident I described, and then I went into meditation. I learned to meditate. I was getting into my healing, forgiveness work for a whole year. And then I thought, okay, I'm ready to go skiing again. I had a second accident with a head injury. And the same thought came up. I was up on the mountain, and then the thought came up, I don't want to be here
yeah,
anymore. And I went, and then I thought, I'm just going to cut it my own track down the mountain, just total autonomy, independence, just disconnected altogether from spirit. And I went off a ledge and had a second accident. And that was really like a very deep wake up call. Like at that point, when I finally got home, I was in my little apartment, and I fell to my knees at that point. And I was like, I need help. I'm going to kill myself if I don't get some really strong help. And that was the moment where it was such a surrender point. I was like, I must have been ready, like really ready to say, this is it. I give my life over. And I had this powerful experience of God's love, just this revelatory experience of such love that I knew it had always been there.
yes.
And it was the home I'd wanted. It was everything that I wanted.
What you were searching for in the skiing, the thrill, the excitement, the beauty.
Yeah. And I knew then so palpably that as long as I asked and remembered to turn to that love for guidance and help and support, I would be shown the way, I would be told. And so was already in this listen, follow. Don't just assume I know anymore. Stop and
Yes.
ask. And then Jesus showed up in a meditation, because you talked about skepticism earlier on.
Yes.
I was not raised with any Christian symbols, any religion at all. I didn't even recognize a picture of Jesus that my mother showed me when I was around 15. I said, who's that man? She's like, oh my God, Kirsten, I'm so sorry. I haven't introduced you. So I had no connection with the words God or Jesus or Holy Spirit. And then after the second accident, where I had this experience of God's love and I wanted to be guided, then I was doing this inner guidance meditation, and then Jesus showed up in my meditation, just the full image of Jesus, and he said, from now on, I will be your guide. So that was a shock. I was like, right. Wow, okay, but okay.
Yeah, you weren't religious at all,
No.
and definitely not Christian.
No.
And there it is, yeah.
There it is. But it was.
So for a skeptic who just thinks Jesus is a hippie rabbi from 2,000 years ago, it's a bigger thing, right? How would you? It's like I think you wrote in your book, Christ is an idea in the mind of God. It's a. So it's not just this one-time event from back in the past. It's
No, not at all. I mean, he said to those he was working with at the time, the apostles, he said, I'll send you the comforter, which is then the spirit, just to listen to, the Holy Spirit, the comforter, any word that works, our intuition with a capital I. That's beyond.
I love you say that. Yeah, so because a skeptic can hear intuition and not turn away because they know. So it's more of, I like to say, a frequency, like the way you said on the second time of the accident, you felt that once you surrender that ego or that energy that's keep seeking out and skiing and saving the snails and the whales, and which is beautiful, and you surrender, there is like a channel or a frequency like where the Holy Spirit or whatever word you want to use there, speaks, and and when you let go, you can hear it finally for the first time. And it wasn't even like, for me, it was shoved down my throat my whole life. And I listened, but then I rejected it at 12 or 13 or 14. And then it's undeniable once you clear yourself out, and you really experience it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's the voice or the feeling or the presence that is quiet, and like you can't have a loud arguing ego voice going on and hear it at the same time. So it's really when you're in that, I'm willing to be shown, I'm willing to be guided, that you can feel it.
And there's
And
a
it is.
point right there that you're saying. I just want to that I know that because and you talk about it in the book, it's really only two. It's either the ego voice or the guidance for the Holy Spirit voice. And that in my book, I call the ego the TMF, the tenacious motherfucker, because it's so slippery. That's why the serpent and the whole, and then here is this. And when I asked David, how do you discern? David's answer, I think, was, because it's so light and loving, and and I think there's a level where, especially if you're on the medicine, or you were on your medicine was real suffering, like that's potent medicine, and that was the natural medicine. And when you get there and you surrender, I think you there's a level where I'll just speak from taking a entheogen or a psychedelic. There's a level where the voice is so clear. It's like what you said. There's no doubt. It's the realest thing there is, and it's not loud, like you said. It's just clear, and it's not even words. It's just the truth. But as for other people, sometimes I think they get caught, and they think the ego voice is the voice, and they might throw 30 years of their life away following the wrong voice.
Yeah, you think it's you, and you think it's logical, it's practical,
Yes.
You've been listening to it your whole life. So, and then this has been coming in as well.
Yes.
So you recognize it later on, like, oh wow, I was hearing, I was following, I just
The whole time
blind to it or deaf to it, but then once you have the ears to hear it, you're like, I have been listening, I just didn't know.
That's
But
beautiful.
it does get more and more clear. It gets more and more clear.
Yes.
Yeah. As you can tune into it, like you said, that's the frequency, and you become more and more attracted to it. Like, it has my best interest at heart. Like, it knows what's best for me. Of course I want to hear it. And it's like a magnet, the attraction gets stronger and stronger.
And it's infinitely rewarding. It's always rewarding.
Yeah.
So now you're at that point, and you get told there's some kind of party or something, and you could easily say no. Many times we go the wrong way, and we say, no, I'll stay home tonight. But
yeah. Yes, I was. Well, it was a party with David. There was a retreat with David, and some amazing, I was guided to be there. I didn't think I wanted to be there, but I listened and followed and went to this retreat. And I was just there for the weekend. And then I thought, after this weekend retreat with this Course in Miracles teacher, I don't know David, and I thought I would just, absorb the course, heal my mind, recover from the head injury, and go back to my mountain biking, skiing lifestyle. Jesus had other plans for me. But I went to this retreat, and one person, came up and said, oh, I heard you're going with David back to America. And I said, no. Right. And the second person, Kirsten, oh, you're going to the Peace House with David? I said, no. And then the third person, Kirsten, I heard you're going to America. And I said, I'm open And then the fourth
Oh,
person, I said, okay. And the fifth person, I said, okay, I need to talk to David about this. And yeah, that was, I talked with him and I could feel like that presence that I'd had in that revelatory experience of God, that love. And then I'd been tuning into that presence and listening to follow that presence. And then when David came and I was sitting in his presence when he was speaking, I was still recovering from migraines, chronic fatigue. I had a headache most of the day. When I was sitting there in his presence, I was pain-free.
I love that. And I think you said, it might have been later, but somewhere you said that you were feeling cold, like for years, like not good and always uncomfortable and cold. And when you were there, it might have been then or later, you you had to wash your face and cool off because you felt this furnace of
Yeah,
love or
yeah,
this beautiful feeling, this vibration, this frequency.
yeah, absolutely. That's it. It's like I was coming into like my heart being lit up on fire again
Yes.
of truth. And I associate fear with colds now in a way. Like there's a feeling of lack or need or just disconnect. And I was not in the love and the joy of my purpose. And then as I got into that more and more, yeah, it felt like a furnace.
Yes.
Furnace,
That's
and
why
I was getting
it's
used to it.
always it's always radiance or
Yes,
light or warmth.
yeah, yeah.
Beautiful. So then you go.
I did. I went. My life was packed up within 6 weeks. And I was on a plane off to America.
And
And I already knew, what it's like, James, like your soul,
yeah,
And yet
fight
my
it.
personality self was saying, yeah, well, 3 months, I'm just going for 3 months,
Yeah,
but I knew, that it was a much bigger calling than that and that this was actually my life, mighty companion, my life
yeah.
partner showing up. Um,
Then you
and
even
I,
you
yeah.
even saw you for a minute you saw like a vision of a wedding ring on David's finger, and then
Mhm.
really looked, there was a wedding ring. It was just in your mind, but it was like giving you a little
Mm.
glimpse or something.
Yeah. Yeah. These signs and symbols of like you are hearing, you are knowing what it is. And it's, yeah, I had to be shown a lot of signs and symbols like that to trust what I was hearing. Because when you're first hearing the spirit or the intuition, you doubt it and you push it
Yeah,
away. There's a much stronger ego force that feels like, that you're used to following.
right.
And so
You
I
think you're
needed a
not
lot of
worthy
reinforcement.
sometimes, right? You're not worthy of that, or
Yeah. Yeah.
like you said, lack, and it's always a negative. This will just be 3 months. It'll be this. You're not worthy of anything more, and then you get
Yeah.
right back into skiing or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We have to be convinced that we're loved over and over and over and over
Yes.
again, and that there is a source that wants to take care of our whole life, take care of every aspect of our life and literally carry us home. But
Yeah.
we're not used to that. We're used to working our way,
Yeah. Yeah.
through this, yeah,
Being the
mission of
doer,
life.
being the doer, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the battle. So your advice to people who might be suffering or going through a similar experience is to, I mean, let go or somehow follow that lighter thought or that more beautiful thought.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And then,
Yeah. Yeah. And whatever the path is, like a Course in Miracles turned out to be my path. And it
yes,
was so clear. It was just absolutely unmistakable. My first response to it, was unmistakable. So that's my path. But whatever our path is, it's one form of the universal curriculum of awakening, and it's not for everyone. But I would say whatever you find as your path, commit to it, because the spirit or the intuition will reach you through it.
Perfect.
And if you can practice with letting go of thinking there's something else and going for an alternative all the time. The ego loves wiggle room.
Yeah.
So it's like, no, you can have a bit of Buddhism and a bit of this and a
Yeah.
bit of that and stay on the smorgasbord.
I
And
love
then you
that.
can, you can't discern clarity and truth from illusions when you can go, well, Buddhism says this and A Course in Miracles says that. And, you know, you can be in trying to figure it out yourself a lot,
Yes.
which we don't want. We want clarity. We want truth, and it's singular. It is,
Yeah.
truth is singular. There's the way, there's the truth, there's the life. Jesus spoke those words, but really it was the universal spirit speaking those words, saying, no, there is one truth. It's not different for everyone. There's different interpretations of it. And it
Right.
reaches everyone in an individual way, an individualized way to lead them, higher and higher, let go of illusions and follow my voice, into the light. There's really one light, one mind. But yeah, we really want to find our path, and you have to find it. But once you found it, go deep with it. And
Mm.
then if you feel it's maximized at a certain point, the next step will show up on the journey, and then commit to that. And then the
Yes.
next step will show up, commit to that, so that the commitment, to the following gets stronger and stronger.
Yeah, you say in the book, it reminded me of that great Zen master would say, you have to go to the truth like your head is on fire and you're
Mm.
seeking a lake to dunk your head. And you had said something, it was a great moment in your book where a mouse actually got in and went up your skirt. Now, and even an ant going up your skirt would be enough, or a spider, but a mouse, a rodent up your skirt. I think the cat was playing with it or something, and it went up your skirt, but it was such a beautiful moment of focus, and you stayed single-minded, single-pointed, right on. And that's how strong the awakening, that was a beautiful moment.
Yeah, yeah,
We get
yeah,
pulled so easily off the pedestal, off the goal.
yeah, yeah, we do. And we need to be impelled to stay on it like that. I was doing a podcast with David, and so we were there. There was a whole global audience, and we were speaking and answering questions. And then, yeah, the cat had come in the window with a mouse, let go of the mouse, and it ran for safety up my skirt. And yeah, it was one of those moments of, am I gonna like distract this whole thing
Yes.
with this, or am I just gonna stay and trust that it's going to turn into a miraculous parable?
Oh, that's so perfect.
But
Like
I was
David would
impelled.
say, David says often, if a fly, and it happened to me once upstate in New York in the mountains, I was sitting so still at a lake and it was so beautiful. And then a big black fly came in. And David was like, if a fly can knock you off of your meditation, you have to work on that. The fly is part of it. You can't get distracted by anything, the mouse or the fly. And you wrote a
Yeah.
great line. The mouse up the skirt, you said it was like when you stayed in that beautiful frequency, you stayed, it was like a candle flickering in a breeze. That was so beautiful, so perfect. Perfect.
Mm. Mm.
You can see it flickering, but it didn't, distract.
Yeah, that's it. That's the mind training.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about every really solid path. It has mind training at the core of it.
Yes.
It's saying, train your mind to be with me, me, the higher source.
Yes.
Train your mind to be present. Train your mind to be still. Watch thoughts, let them go. Let the healing arise. Of course, we want to welcome all of the healing that's going to come up. And sometimes it's like a tsunami, and you've got to allow the emotions and whatever comes. but the training is to always just keep coming back to the truth until that gets so strong that you are the strength. You're one with the light and the mind, and it can't get snuffed out by anything of this world.
Right.
Yeah, we're coming into that like distractionless, fearless, abiding. Abiding as who we are.
In this podcast, the advanced astonishment, the M in astonishment is to the third power, like a 3, and so the 3 M's are matter, medicine, and mind training. Could also be married, a mystic. The many M's, the Course in Miracles, a lot of M's, but that keeps me on track. Matter and the solidity of the world, and how you were caught up in it, and then you saw that you're trying to save something that isn't real,
right.
or as you wrote it, which is tough, I think, for people. You said something like the world initially, when you're lost in it, is made of hate. It's hate, really, and you're trying to save that, and it's like the shadows on the wall.
Yeah,
so
that's it.
Mind training, medicine, matter.
Yeah, that's it. It's that was the first thing I read when I opened the course, which blew my mind and showed me in an instant that it was my path. And it was that what I read, I'm paraphrasing, but it was, you have no control over the world you made, which is over the world that you're perceiving. Like, I'm perceiving my world, everyone's perceiving their world. So I have no control over the world I made, for it was made out of what I do not want.
Perfect.
I only have control over the direction of my thinking. And so I had been spending so much of my life up to that point trying to avoid what caused pain. And particularly at that moment when I had chronic fatigue and headaches, like the world was noisy, very, very noisy to me, airplanes and lawnmowers. And so I was focused on what was causing me pain and acutely aware of it. And wanting to prevent, avoid it, or protect myself from it. I'd gone through the phase of trying to heal it and change it. And then now I was trying to just protect myself.
Want to be comfortable. Yeah.
Right. And here I was being told, you bring it in, bring this healing within. Like, what you don't want is what you're perceiving outside. It's your perception. Bring your perception to me and give it over to me for healing, and let me heal your perception.
Yes.
And you will have a different experience. And that was it. It was the overturning of my perception of a world that was painful, a world that could cause me pain, a world where there's attack, and grievances and hurt and abuse and victimization and manipulation and all of these things. Like, I needed to bring it in and see, oh, this is what I do believe in when I really take it in and look at it. And it's in healing my mind of the beliefs that then the world started to change. Like, I perceive a very different world now to what I perceived then. Thank God.
Yeah, you see through the dream now. You could see through it rather than, it's like that old term, mountains. First there are mountains and rivers. Then there are no mountains, and mountains aren't mountains and rivers aren't rivers. And then you come back and mountains are mountains and rivers are rivers, but you see through to that emptiness of the whole thing.
Yeah.
So this is where you might disagree with me. You'll see. David didn't, and maybe you won't either. But sometimes to see what, suffering caused this surrender for you, but for other people, they don't know how to surrender. Maybe they need to, like, you can read the Course in Miracles for 40 years and the words are it's not easy until you surrender to it even for me, it was very hard for years until I had an experience. So in the dream, there are these symbols, and one of the other M's is medicine. I don't know where you stand on it, but sometimes taking the medicine, some kind of medicine in a sacred way, lets you experience the whole point of the course. Because I know I have a friend, and she read the course for years, and she might have even taught the course or went to a group that taught the course. And one day my teacher walked into that group, and they were arguing over some things, some points, and he listened, and then he got up and he explained the truth, like dead on, like straight, what the book is saying, really. And they were crying, and they felt it, and he got there from the medicine. And of course, later you have to do the mind training, and but sometimes for some people, like a skeptic like me, the medicine, I mean, my first experience wasn't medicine, but the second one and the third one of them were on the medicine. And then you have to get that same surrender without, and let everything dissolve without the medicine, because you can't take medicine your whole life. It's a good tool. So how do you feel about a frustrated course student maybe taking some kind of medicine and then going back, like seeing like if my glasses are all muddy, and then the medicine wipes, and you finally see it's the living word, and then the next day you're back in the mind prison, and maybe take something that taking the medicine let you see the light, or see what freedom you feel, what freedom really is, and then you start to learn how to escape that same prison without medicine.
Right. Oh, I'm wide open. I feel like,
great.
oh yeah, this is about guidance. This is
Yes.
about everyone tuning into that inner guidance. And the inner guidance can guide us to use everything and anything of this world for the healing of the mind. That's the purpose of everything of this world.
Yes.
When we realize we want to wake up, we're like, okay, go for it. Please use everything to reach me.
Yes.
So it's really,
and the most
comes
potent
down to
symbol, one of the most potent, is the medicine. Like take it in the right way, in the most perfect, beautiful, devotional way, where you totally surrender, but maybe you take a little medicine, and wow, you see, you experience what you experienced on that amazing suffering that made you surrender.
Oh yeah. I feel like when it's guided, it is miraculous.
Yeah.
Always. And the mind has to be very ready and very open and accepting of whatever it is. So if it's medicine, the mind and someone's guided to take it, then it can be extremely helpful. But it's got to be guided. I have a lot of friends who, exactly, or someone deciding kind of on their own, I know how to wake myself up. This is how we've always been. I know how to live this life. I know how to wake myself up. I'm going to lead my own journey. And then there can be more frightening experiences than beatific experiences. So in my experience, it's really comes to that tuning in and listening. And hopefully there's always an elder brother who's there to tune in with you and pray or listen to know, yes, it's the right timing. Yes, you're ready, that you can tune in with together. And because when two or more are joined in prayer, I mean, this goes back to what was said 2,000 years ago, where two or more gather in my name, there I am. And it's the same now when we join because we want to hear truth. That channel gets opened, and we can hear the same voice, and that's very reassuring to also
you
lay
write
aside.
about that in the book beautifully, about the pupil and the teacher and the pupil, and what that really is. And my teacher guided me in a beautiful way of because sometimes at some point you think you're the teacher, and he said it's nice once in a while to flip that and flip the teacher pupil around, and it's everything you're saying, that it's just that one voice coming through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful. So I'm glad you're not so medicine, mind training, and then matter. We can go into the architecture of the dream. This is like a dream, and when you believe in it and you think it's real, like you did early on, and I did, it looks nightmarish after a while. Because there's always, like you said, you can fix one thing and another thing happens. You save the snail, and then there's the whale, and then there's this, and you're always sticking your finger in the dike trying to stop the flood until you realize the whole thing is a dream and you wake up from it.
Yeah, absolutely. It has to be given a new purpose. We have to learn through a new purpose that it's not that I'm separate from it and it's external to me. I mean, that's when there's this gap, and within that gap there's fear and guilt, and then we're trying to bridge the gap from a separated state, and it's an impossible situation. And then the bringing it in, it's like the purpose of the dream, the purpose of this world as I perceive it is for the healing of my mind. And that becomes so safe and so reassuring. And so you can settle into that and go, okay, this is for my healing. Okay, let me use it for this purpose then, so that it can lighten up and my mind can get lighter. And then what I've been seeing lately too, James, is just more and more just how as the guilt is washed from my mind of personal responsibility that I should know, and I should know everything and be able to not make any mistakes. Or I know it sounds so funny when you say it, but it's the little scraps of guilt, when things just
that in the book too, you called it the I know something. I
know mind.
Yes.
I know mind. Mm-hmm.
And facts, and these different facts that we think we know. Like when when you're driving with David and the light goes on in the car, the check engine light, that means oil or something, but he didn't seem to be bothered.
Agree with me. No, he didn't agree with me.
And that's where the fight, right? You're like, what is he, crazy? He's just, and I love you, right? Maybe he's just an aloof mystic that just doesn't, and I know cars, and this is the real world, and the car needs oil or else and then I think you went up a little bit of a fight, he's laughing, and then you go to a mechanic, and in the end, the car was fine, right? No oil leak or...
Oh, yeah, we went to a mechanic, and the mechanic looked it over and said, there is absolutely nothing wrong with this car. David was just smiling quietly the whole time. Well, I had all my judgment thoughts about him and not being responsible, and what I think I know. But I'd forgotten for a moment that it was all for the healing of my mind and the undoing of this part of my mind,
Yes.
that was running the show and just within my mind. And then as we drove away from the mechanic, David said, that light doesn't mean check your engine, it means check your mind.
Yes. Which can we talk about that for a minute? Because even on the path, even when you're on the path, forget if you don't know the path, forget about that. But even when you're on the path, when you hear that, and you talk about David, like sometimes people get angry at him, like, because, you're telling the truth, So even when you're on the path, when you hear that kind of talk, the ego hates that. And you detail that beautifully in the book. And we all go through that where we're like, real anger could come up if he said, or when you're driving and you feel hot and you were sweating and it was so hot and you needed air conditioning and it wasn't working. And he said, you have hot thoughts. You're having hot thoughts. And you're like, yeah, man, I'm having hot thoughts. Like, what planet are you from? I'm having hot thought. Like, and you can judge him as just some aloof mystic, some guy that is caught in some kind of magical thinking or something, but it's the truth. It's the truth.
Right. Yeah, yeah,
And right when you
yeah.
let go, if we can go into that, that would be so. There's a whole physics of, and you detail it beautifully in the book. Every time you show the mind war and the judgment, and then you sometimes you don't tell David, and it's worse because it builds into a snowball and it keeps going. And then when you finally tell him, and he gives back this laugh or whatever answer he gives that you hate, you anger, and then when you finally surrender to that, you felt cool, you felt a breeze come, go into
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Yeah, sure,
That's
sure.
a big thing right there. That's the
It
real
is.
physics right there.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah, you described it perfectly. It was a very, very there was extremely hot weather, hotter than usual, and we were on a road trip in Florida. The tarmac was melting. You could just, the waves of heat like off the front of the car, and then the air conditioning went out. And I had headaches, so I had all this protectionism going on. Hot, not good. Not good for. I just had this belief I wasn't even really aware of, but that heat might damage me somehow even more because it could compound pain or the
You've
headache.
been through a lot. Yeah, you were trying to
Yeah.
protect yourself.
Yeah, that's it. That was at the
Yeah.
core of it. So even though on the surface it seems like these are just my opinion, his opinion, to the ego, that's what it is. And then I was a Course in Miracles student. I wanted to be spiritually correct. I didn't want to challenge or speak my judgmental thoughts or even admit that I needed something. I wanted to try to be, healed and whole and a good demonstration of spiritual
So you
principles.
hold those thoughts in, but in the book, it's so beautiful because you detail them and they're like, there's
Yeah.
so much of them. They keep getting stronger. The worst is when you would hold them for weeks instead of letting it
Yeah.
out quicker.
That's it. That's it. It's their private thoughts. And when you're keeping thoughts private, there's protectionism and there's no healing. And then the gap between myself and David would grow, and then
Yeah.
the projection would go on to exactly
You
the
said the
relationship
love
would
would go
tank.
away. Maybe it's over. I hate
Yeah.
this guy. I don't
Yeah.
love him anymore. Not you didn't hate him, but you did. Maybe this marriage is over. It's no good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you
Why
just
did I even leave New Zealand? The whole
yeah,
thing. It's like start questioning the whole journey, questioning everything. And then as soon as I dared to ask for it like a little child going, okay, I don't know what to do. I just,
that's the
I'm
big
in
thing.
pain and I need help. Yeah. And, and then when I shared the thoughts with him but I went in to really look at my mind. I did say it's hot. I didn't dare ask if we could fix everything. I think I did. Maybe we could get it fixed. He said, you're having hot thoughts. I had enough awareness of going inward to my mind that I could do the inner work sitting there
Yes.
and just go down through the layers. So I started off with the perception, it's hot, there's a heat wave, there's sweat dripping all over me. I believe. So then through the thoughts down to how do I feel? Well, I feel really uncomfortable. I feel hurt that David's not helping me.
Yes.
There's
Does
some
he love you?
emotion.
Maybe he doesn't love you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They
What's
just,
wrong with
and
this guy?
fear. Yeah. Fear that I'm now trapped in this life that's not my choice. Like really allowing the emotions to be felt and come up. And then down to the core belief, like what do I really believe here then? And then as I sat there and questioned, I had to let go of the fear and the upset and the anger and the hurt first before I could really go deeper into, wow, I believe I can be damaged by this heat. And I believe that the sun is causing me to feel this way. I believe that I'm at the mercy of this world. I believe I'm a body in this car, stuck and trapped in time and space. So I got right down to the core beliefs about, my identity, and then giving them over. And I'm willing to be wrong about this. And I go, this is insane. Of course, I'm right about this. Oh, but I'm
This
willing
is
to
the
be wrong
crucial
about
part
it.
right here, where the
Yeah.
rubber meets the road for real, right here.
That's it. That's it. And
what
facing the
happened? What was the click? What was what what allowed you to? Because then the cool breeze came.
Yeah. Well, beneath belief, core beliefs that I was getting in touch with is desire. Desire is the deepest core.
Buddha.
And I could, yeah. And I could see I did not want to be wrong about this.
That's big.
My desire was, I believe I'm right. And that was where I could feel my grip on, I do believe I'm right about this. And so I had to draw deeper into desire to say, I want to be wrong.
That's a big part of your book was, and I experienced the exact same thing. Do you want to be right, or do you want, it's just the one or the other. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be at peace?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that's a tough one. That's so ego.
That's where the rubber meets the road.
Yes, that's it.
That's it right there.
So you got there, and you have hot waste next to you.
Yeah. And when I could get on right down to the desire of I want to be wrong, I want to be shown that I'm completely wrong about this experientially, not just an intellectual, argument, or to get this over with quickly. I could feel it.
Well, that's humble right there. You said, I want to be shown.
Yeah. I want to be shown.
That I am right, but show me that I'm wrong. That's something right there. That's something.
Yeah. And then simultaneously, right at that moment it was a release, the traffic started moving, the car was going, and then a cool breeze, it felt like, came in the window, and it felt like the Spirit just kissing me on the cheek, saying, you did great.
Beautiful. And he loved it when you told him.
Yeah, we were so happy. And then the traffic got going. We were out of the city. We were on the highway with the windows down. Felt like the 80s, with the windows down. We didn't have AC then anyway.
Right.
And we just had the music up, and we were off to the next gathering.
AC was this, just turning the window. That's great. And you talk about, I like the way you worded it, the grip of the mind. Like you could feel the grip of it, and it's holding. And so that's the whole thing. And obviously the medicine, that's the whole job is it loosens that grip, that tightness like that.
Yeah.
Mind training will loosen it. If one can see that we dream every night or just about, I mean, I know a 94-year-old woman who told me about a dream the other day, and she was still caught in the dream at night. And I said, wow, so Angela, you still after 94 years, you can't discern dream and reality. And she said, no way, no. And it's helping her understand this dream, the nighttime dream. And it's a perfect clue to help us. Every night we make this whole unreal reality, and we get lost in it every single night. And then we wake up from it in relief. And we should learn from that. It's there every day.
It is. Well, Jesus in the Course says there is actually no difference between your waking dreams and your sleeping dreams. All your time is spent in dreaming. So, and then that's good news, because then we can give it all the purpose of healing and say, okay, please be with me. Just be with me 24/7. No, I don't want to use the nighttime for escape, or trying to escape the daytime dream. It's like, no, it's all, I got to come to giving it all this purpose. Yeah.
Well, that brings up a great point in your book when you write about sleep and how important I need to get my sleep. I need no noise and sleep. And I think we all go through this. I'm in a hotel right now, And once in a while, it's loud, loud, and I need to get my sleep. And I was laughing at it at breakfast because it was exactly what you can go through, that we think we need to, again, protect ourselves and be right and get our right amount of sleep and the body, and we need to feed the body, like you said, the right peanut butter and the right. Can you talk a little bit about that whole, we think we know what's right,
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I had a sleep addiction. I recognized at some point, like, wow, I am totally addicted to sleep. I would wake up in the morning and evaluate the whole thing. How many hours, what kind of quality, because
Right.
this is going to dictate my day. Like it was my fix
Yeah.
to be able to cope with the day. And
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 if a
then it was,
barking dog or a guy mowing the
mm,
lawn at night or something got in the way, you said, how dare they? Like, what?
yeah,
This is my
yeah,
sleep.
yeah, yeah. It was like someone stealing from me, stealing,
Yes. Oh, it's,
stealing my sleep. Felt
yeah.
attacked. So
Yes.
yeah, at some point I had to be willing to really take it on, and I had to again get down to that core desire. Do I want to be right about this? That I need it. I need everything I've just identified. I need a certain amount. I need a certain quality. I need uninterrupted. I need, otherwise, these are the effects, like all of the core beliefs, like I'll be physically tired, I'll be
Yes.
drained by the afternoon, it could induce headaches. I had to be, even though I had been living with years and years and years of proof that the cause and the effect are facts.
That's big.
I
Yeah.
reached a point where I was like, okay, I have all the evidence to prove that I'm right. But the question on the table is, do I want to be right about this? Do I want to keep living this experience for the next
Big
decade?
question.
Because I could, it's a choice. Yeah. But once I was ready, there was like a readiness, which I feel it was even
Ripeness, like a ripeness.
beyond.
Yeah.
Yeah, a ripeness, exactly. To say I'm ready to really face this and question it. I was inspired to. Like I'd had enough. I'd reached a point where I feel so done with this now.
Yes.
I don't want to be involved in it anymore. Like anyone who's addicted to anything or alcohol, anything, but behaviorally, it has some value, to the sleeping mind, not to the not to the right mind or the who we are, but there was some value in it, and I had to admit that too. Like, okay, if I'm doing this to myself, because not everyone's experiencing this, Dave. It's not. I'm sure there's a lot of other people who are not choosing this and living this.
He was
So what
getting
is
up
it?
at 3 and answering emails and right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. If he was woken up, he took it as the spirit and got into his function, which was joyful.
Also, I loved, and you detailed it beautifully, like St. Augustine. Um, if the Wi-Fi went out and you're in the middle of a big talk, David would just drop the headphones and go, "That's it," and
Yep.
not fight it and yell at the company that makes the whoever brings the Wi-Fi in, and it was over. And that's a beautiful way to look at the power of this whole thing.
Yeah.
When it's
Yeah,
done, it's done.
totally. That's it. When it's done, it's done. Just such acceptance of
Yeah.
of what's happening, acceptance of the script playing out.
Yes.
Yeah.
We could talk about the script for a minute. We can go everywhere. The script is great, and I love what rises up at the moment again that rubber meets the road, where you rise beyond the script, and there is a script, and then there isn't a script. When there's a moment where you go beyond it. I don't know if you want to talk about that. That's a beautiful
Yeah.
moment where you realize it's like the ego makes the script and you're following the script, and then you realize you did it nicely, that there's only God, and in Christ is like an idea in the mind of God that drops in, and that pulls you out of then there's no script at some point.
Right, right. It's like the Akashic records, the script was written. Like they could tune in and read, what seems to be the future, because it was written in the past
Right.
in terms of linear time. So it's like we're these characters just living out
Love that part of your book.
script. Mm. And when we identify as a character and we don't know anything else, then we feel like we're at the mercy of it and it's happening to us. And then we're trying to fight against it, or we feel guilty and responsible for it. We're trying to change it. We're worried about the future, and because we think we're responsible in some way for affecting it. And then through all of this forgiveness practice of releasing our mind from our belief in the world and in it, and that this is who I am, right? Then we're just able to watch it play out from a place of peace.
That was so beautiful.
More and more.
Wrote it. I wrote something very similar, and it's like you realize I was from New York, so Broadway, and the whole thing is Broadway. Don't make it one street in New York. The whole thing, and the lighting rig is the stars and the sun and the moon. And you wrote a beautiful, and you can sit back, like come here, like the guidance says, and watch from this high point. The way that's like a God point of view, like you could watch from the mountaintop and look, and it's such a beautiful view rather than being caught in that subject object view. You back up and you can enjoy it, and see that it's all this one playing and formed. You did it.
Yeah,
really
that's it. Yeah. I remember that in the book. I just really see it all as a play.
Yes.
And now come and sit up in the seats with me up really high, and let's watch it from up here and just look at those
Much
characters
better.
playing their parts. Exactly. And how do you feel for them now? Do you feel a love for them now that they're playing their parts so well?
Such compassion and love.
Yeah.
You can't believe it.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the Leela, right? Leela, like divine play.
Yeah. And then more and more it really does disappear in terms of experiencing it as being linear, as if there's really this journey playing out in linear time. And it's a journey in time and in the world, and all of these things in time and space are going to happen and have happened. It's more and more as we get lighter and lighter, then we're just living in the present moment.
Yes.
Exactly.
And that seems like the cross.
Yeah.
I experienced that once in meditation. It was so clear that this was time and space, the horizontal, and this was the Father, Son. Like even when we do the movement like of that, it's this way or that way. And you wrote that it's really the vertical that the truth is, and this is the stretch of, I'm changing your words, but something like that. When you wake up, you see this.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that's what really becomes reality for us. Is like, that is the truth. That is our reality, that we're here. And I don't know if you've had those experiences before, but I'm sure you have. But I remember being on these road trips sometimes, and with David, where we were traveling for days and days and days, on the road for like 4, 5, 6, 7 hour drives sometimes. And we'd be listening to this incredible music, just orchestral music. And I'd reach a point where my hands were on the wheel, and then it was as if just the scenery was just going past, and we were just there in this miraculous moment, and time and space was just washing by. And we were doing nothing. We were going nowhere. We're just in this holy instant. Yes. And then hours would pass, and then we would just show up at the next place.
Right. You're at a hotel.
Yeah.
It's getting dark. Yeah. I had an exact experience. And I love in the book how maybe you can talk about the moment when it was such a great moment in the book where you realize that everything was just conceptual. Everything was just an idea in your mind, and you ask your inner guidance, like, is this true? Like, because you could pull back and say that cheapens it, or you can try, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but something like that. It sounds almost unbelievable, or it is unbelievable. It's astonishing when you realize that everyone and everything is just a concept, and there's only this God just is, or pure imagination, or the source, or whatever you want to call that. Love.
Yeah. It was a very profound,
Big.
one of those like mind-blowing experiences of, because I'd been focusing on my own self-concept, my personality self, and in terms of, what there is to release,
Yes.
like.
And you watch that in the book start to dissolve as you get to chapter 10, 11, 12. It started to go away, and the fear, you're gripping, you're trying to hold on to something.
Right. Yeah. And all of my preferences and my way of being. And then in the Course, Jesus talks about there's the face of innocence, which is, this mask that we wear, and it's like everyone on the planet. It's all a, the personality, the mask.
Persona.
And the persona, exactly. And it's often wet with tears at the injustices of the world.
Yes.
And it's perceiving injustice, and then it's in it, and it's crying, and it's weeping, and it's this face of innocence that's trying to be good, wanting to be good, people pleasing, like wanting to please everybody and make everybody happy and safe in this world.
Be a
but
good
underneath,
person.
what's that?
Be a good person. You write
Be
about.
a good person, exactly.
You want to be a good person.
Be a good, whatever the role is that we're playing, the role, it can start off as being a daughter or a son, and then it's a friend or a teacher or a mother or a father, a student, whatever the role is, job roles, friendship roles. There are roles we're trying to play to keep the peace and be innocent and make, uphold this face of innocence. And then he says underneath this face of innocence, there's a dark displacement, which is the other part of the identity, which is what we touch on when we feel displaced. Like, I don't know how I fit in. I don't know where I belong. There's a trauma, a hurt, a lostness, a fear. And we all have touched on this, awareness in our consciousness. And one is covering over the other. So much of the journey is about, don't be fake. Don't put on a fake mask. If you don't feel good, please admit it. Bring it to the light. Be real. Just say how you're feeling, to heal.
Yeah. Be authentic.
Exactly. It's the only way, to have both be resolved.
You can't lie.
Exactly. Not on this journey.
You can't. And that to me is where when I correct, you didn't have all that Christianity shoved down your throat, that dualistic Christianity, luckily, but I did until confirmation. So it's pleasurable for me to correct it with the Course and the Christian mystics and Meister Eckhart and Russ Brooke and Thaler and this one and that one. There's so many that correct it, and I say, oh, they were saying that. Oh, and so God always watching is that, like, you're always there. There's always that. I think you have a line in the book, it might be from the Course, that if you knew who was like next to you or within you the whole time, you would never think something. You could never be negative. It would be impossible to be negative. Like Peace Pilgrim said, you could never, if you knew the power of the mind, you'd never be negative. And you said that, like, it's right there the whole time.
Right. That's it. That's what we're coming to learn. And what I saw with that, like the face of innocence and what's underneath, suddenly, because I was going through some healing with my younger brother at the time,
Yes.
and things were not working out for him. And I perceived him as being a victim and was being innocent. And then as I was learning about this for myself and opening to see, oh wow, it's the face of innocence. If this is how I see it for myself, it can't be that that's who he truly is either. Like
Right.
he's
That's
spirit, he's
yeah.
Christ. And in that moment, something shifted to seeing, oh wow, that's the face of innocence. My whole life, I've been thinking that was who he really was, that he is a victim, that he is innocent, and things keep happening to him. And it was one of those mind blowing moments of seeing every face as
Yes.
the face of innocence covering over the healing, that was underneath. Yeah, just seeing like all the self concept or the self
Yes.
concepts is what they were, yeah, in one moment. And then that line that you shared, like, thank God, that's the truth. Like, if you knew, I think Jesus says in the Course, if you knew who walked beside you along the way you have chosen, fear would be impossible.
Yes.
Oh,
So
then, yeah.
beautiful.
Mm,
That part of the book I thought was, I love the idea of seeing your chapter on just the one mind, and when you really saw through the illusion of everything, that was the way you led up to that was so beautifully.
mm, mm.
Okay, 1 second. And now I can go on forever and ever, and I know you probably I don't know how long you'll go, but I would love to talk about supply and healing for just a little bit, and
Mm,
and bring in the skeptical mind just a little bit, because I can think of the skeptics out there watching, or someone that's on the fence or not quite getting this. And I have many friends that are trying, or family members. And how do you know, again, the voice? How do you know which voice to trust? And I think of it like every religion, like Jesus talked about the lily and the bird, right? Just they don't do anything, and everything's provided. So the Course and Christianity and every religion basically says, when you let go and you surrender, you will be taken care of. And some people give up everything, and they don't get this. So what do you think that is? Are they not ripe enough, or are they listening to the ego? Why do some people get stuck in the weeds? And you and David in the beginning had a car with a little gas in the beginning, and he just followed his way, and then you jumped in, and everyone. So what about people that do let go of everything, and they let go of their job, or they let go of everything and it didn't work? What do you think that is? But I know David
mm.
would just say, keep praying and keep staying the course. But do you have anything to say about that? Just for the people that might be a little doubtful.
Sure, sure. I would say it's not over until it's over.
That's good. That's good. I like that a
So
lot. And
you're
even
either
when you think it's over, it's just starting.
exactly,
It could go
exactly.
forever. You write
Yeah.
beautifully about eternity and how it's
Mm,
everything, everywhere.
mm,
It's a
mm.
never ending.
Yeah,
So it's not over till it's over.
exactly. You're either in the miracle or
That's
the
really
miracle's on its way. Oh,
so. Even when it's like you keep getting punched and hit, and an accident and this, and you give up your job, and it's still the light is, yeah. When it's darkest is maybe that's when you'll see it.
yeah. Yeah, when I heard and read um about the mystics and the saints of old, they would go into their caves for decades.
Mm.
And that was very reassuring to me because it really took the pressure off me in terms of time, as if I was supposed to like, heal immediately and like decades. And there was such devotion and they were facing the dark night of the soul. And
Yes.
so I kind of felt like I was given a good heads up. There's going to be a journey through the darkness to the light. And David was so, so supportive and just saying, like, it was such a non-judgmental presence of support when I said I need to have a siesta every afternoon. I have
That was
to sleep. He said, I love siestas. We can build that into the travel plan. I was like, oh my God. So it's just about not drawing conclusions that I was failing or that the journey was
yes.
failing. And every step of the way, it was don't draw a conclusion unless
And don't,
it's
and
about,
a big part of your book is don't carry that conclusion for
right.
weeks
Yeah.
and weeks. We carry it, and then as soon as you would ask David, he would say, "Yeah," like when you didn't like, he was wearing socks over his sandals and socks and sandals and um things that look like dresses. I don't know what he was wearing, and you said, "Hey, would you mind?" And he said, "Dress me up like a Ken doll, like let's." And you were so relieved, but you didn't ask, you didn't know until
Right.
we hold it like a coal, right? Like a hot
That's
coal.
it. Yeah, that's it. It's private thoughts, like holding on our own and trying to deal with it on our own. So I feel like a
That's
lot of the journey, or the whole journey, really is about revealing what's going on in our consciousness to the light of the Holy Spirit, and or just to the light, whatever term works for
yes,
you. And then when there's a mighty companion who shows up, and there's a certain point on the journey where they show up because they are a witness to your devotion and your commitment and just the timing of it's time now for you to let them in. These are the
yes,
ones who want to wake up just like you do. And then when they show up, it's like opening up to this next phase of healing, of holding no private thoughts together and daring to be with others in that and reveal the thoughts. And then I feel like the speed up into the joy and into the lightness comes when you start to perceive more and more witnesses and reflections of this yes in your mind, which is it's all our mind. So we're seeing whenever there's a yes and someone else is flying, it's like, thank you, God. Thank you for showing me it's possible to fly rather than tank.
yes.
So I was also like looking for the witnesses, who were showing me that it's possible. And then just really being, again, coming back to being very authentic. Like, I want to trust in you and I'm scared. I want to know the step is guided by you. I was so willing to take, you know, like drop the world and leave my life behind and take massive steps in the world by myself. I did that my whole life. But
Even
then when
skiing
it
is a big, like you were
came,
adventurous that way with skiing, and what was the other
yeah,
thing? Skiing, and
mountain biking.
that's big, yeah.
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
were a risk taker
Risk
and have to
taker.
jump off the roof once in a while or jump off a cliff, metaphorically,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And that's right. With the body, I have freedom of the body to take all kinds of risks.
that was
But
big.
then,
And that's the whole, that really holds us, right? The body.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then Jesus is saying, no, you want freedom of mind. So it's not about taking big steps so much and necessarily. Sometimes it's guided to take, steps and let things fall away that no longer serve and help you on your journey. But it's more about tuning into wanting to feel guided and connected and have that show the way. So I found that it was about more of learning to listen, and be shown that this is the way rather than, me always taking the lead, even spiritually. And then, yeah, in terms of supply, it felt, in my experience, as I was letting go of taking care of myself, thinking for myself, by saying, think for me, I don't want to think for myself, think for me. It starts with thinking, and then the form can follow, And then when I noticed I was listening and following and being of service, like, how can I serve your plan today? I don't think I have much to offer, but whatever I can do, just tell me, show me how I can be helpful.
You found joy in that. I remember in the book, the more you didn't know, but you would give of your time instead of meditating, you would be doing the dishes or doing this or doing that. And the joy came of service.
Yeah, it did. Because I wasn't serving the world like I had been before, because I felt like it needed saving and changing by me. It was, I'm serving God. I'm serving by listening, because I just want to be with Spirit. And then the more I did that, then the more miraculously things would show up to support me, to help me in that flow and in that service. And so there were these great, like, fun little miracles, like our neighbor, at the beginning, there was one friend who lived nearby. Later on, a whole spiritual community evolved, which is what it is now. And at that time, our neighbor Pam, I had this bikini, and I needed a new bikini top because it had just, dissolved. It was falling apart over time. And I thought, I don't have time to go shopping, and I'm not inspired. I don't want to. And then she went out shopping, and then she called me. She said, Kirsten, I just went shopping and I bought this bikini top, and I have no idea why. Is it for you? And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. So we're both in this miracle of her being activated and me actually needing something and feeling like I'm not guided to go searching for it. I'm not moved to.
Skeptical mind can come in there and sort of say coincidence or whatever, isn't that funny that showed? But if you really let go, you see that is the lily and the bird right there. That's the supply.
Yeah. And when it happens over and over and over again, you get convinced.
Blouses and you just kept saying it and it kept coming.
Yeah,
it's undeniable at some point.
Yeah, it is.
So I think the greatest thing you said was it's not over until it's over. That's and it may hurt. You're saying it may hurt and it looks like the end. Just keep surrendering, keep devaluing what isn't important, right? I watched throughout your book everything, and you had such fear to let go of the taking care of the body. I mean, it gets taken care of in the end, but the conscious, like thinking of the body and thinking of what you were wearing and what you're doing. And you were like, I'm not going to become some, lethargic, whatever you said, sloth of a person.
Yeah.
You had fear of that. I'm not going to eat the wrong things. I'm not, but and you were happy to see David still took a shower every day. He still gets done, but it's not so much that you carry it, I think is your point.
Exactly. I had to see my investment and my purpose, my reason for doing things, and they were egoic. I wanted to exercise, to have a healthy body, to not put on weight. And there was a point, and it was escapism. I wasn't really clear about that until I would have some healing coming up, and I'd say, I've got to go for a walk. And then one day David said, just sit, and let's be together and face this. And just the ego coming up of this huge resistance of like, I want to take a walk. And I could see, wow, a lot of my purpose for going, it was all tied in together.
You incessantly, like he's
yeah.
And you were like, what is he, a madman? And it was crazy. We always think that of the one that is pointing something that we can't see yet, that they're wrong, but when it's done right, it's the right thing. But we fight it. We see it, like you said, later as the unknotting of everything.
Yeah. So I would say the core of it for anyone who's like going through the darkness and is not yet being carried in the miracle, I would say just really, as much as you can, trust, like really offer your trust that it's a process until it's an instant.
Yes.
And it's a process of allowing the healing to arise and looking at the beliefs that are brought up. Like we don't have to go on a witch hunt to try to find something, but just being with it to see what is it that I really believe and what is it that I really want, and letting go of when we can see the grip on it to choose, well, what I really want is to be free of this and let that decision for freedom keep getting stronger. And then that's what really just brings the miracle through. It's a shift of perception and then things shift on a bigger scale, that you can't always see when you're just in
Yeah,
the healing.
I agree. I think that's what you're talking about, a natural medicine. And I think that's what the astonishment medicine, like psilocybin or something, can do, is it dissolves that fear and that grip and that valuing of and once you dissolve that, and you're saying the same thing though, if you don't take the medicine, just trust, and it might hurt, and it's scary, and it's fear, fear comes up, and doubt and all sorts of things, but just hold on. Oh no, don't hold on. Yeah, just let go.
Yeah, yeah,
and,
yeah,
and wait, and it's not over till it's over.
yeah, that's it. And just, yeah, and know that it's going to be miraculous. Like that is inevitable. Like
Yeah.
us knowing who we are, which is love and joy and happiness, that is inevitable to know that's who we are and to come into the full experience of it. And yet there's a healing process that's taking place that is, to the extent that we don't judge it or draw conclusions, it can move through. It can be
Yes.
transcended.
And you write beautifully that you'll say God is, and love just is. It's not lost. Love doesn't lose. Love is. So if you can have some kind of trust in that when it's dark, that's the dark night, it'll be okay. Just all is well. It's the answer of all the mystics and all the sages.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. And we have so much support now, don't we, James? Like,
Yes.
the music, like guided
Yes.
meditations on YouTube. There's so many resources and so many writings and podcasts, and
So
we
much.
can tune in to this help and the voice of truth and love and the vibration of it. It's so accessible to us now. So it's not decades in a cave on our own. Thank God,
No.
we've kind of moved beyond that now. It's yeah, we can really join in this collaborative venture of waking up.
Yes. We're
Yeah.
so connected with the internet and virtual reality. Even there are meditations. There's an app. I don't know if you ever tried the Trip app,
No.
TRIPP,
Okay.
and you put the goggles on and you go on this Trip app without the medicine. You just put it on in your kitchen, and you're in a beautiful meadow, or you're on a giant magic mushroom, and everything's breathing around you in 360. You can look, and then a voice comes, and you can see that whoever wrote this program experience, it wrote and like it writes imagination wrote all the movies and the Truman Show and everything, and it wrote this, and you're on this mushroom, and everything's just so beautiful around you. And then you look to your right. It took me like 5 minutes, and there's a 100-foot mushroom over here, just breathing and going, and another one here, and then a light comes up like a cross, like this beautiful light, and it says, "Breathe with me." And so you breathe, and the breath comes out you can see the breath, and it gets you to inhale and exhale at the proper, it teaches you to breathe. And you think you know how to breathe, but maybe you don't. And it teaches you how. And then all of a sudden, if you elevate, you get in this light and it brings you up. And as you transcend in this light up, you feel it inside. You can feel it just like the medicine. And after 30 minutes of that, a lot is dissolved. So like you said, there are tools, there's virtual reality, the internet, satsangs, Course in Miracles, your book, many books, nature. So don't
Which
give
is,
up.
yeah, absolutely. And this is our mind awakening. And then just this truth is being pulled through in all these different ways to reach us and help us wake up. It's like our own mind is awakening. It's just
Yes.
when we're identified as this one particular character, and then there's this comparison device and this belief that it's not all my mind. And so you can just get stuck into this, really perceiving that
Yeah, I
you're
always see
separate.
that to go with your acting and your lead, the play, the Shakespearean play, All's Well That Ends Well, that you write about. It's almost like when you're that locked in, you're like a Robert De Niro like method actor, that you get convinced of your own acting. You get so lost in the play, and then when you see this, you like if you're in a play and someone yells at you, it's just a line in the script, and you shouldn't really get, if they throw water on you, that's part of the script. You don't get upset. It's just acting. But a little child front row thinks the whole thing's real. The dagger went in. And like you write, in the end, I think you say this, it's just a play. I know you say something like this, Alan Watts, that at the end of the play, the curtain, drops, and then the characters come out, and at the end, when the villain comes out, you've been to Broadway, right, or somewhere, the crowd goes crazy when the villain, because now you're seeing the true. It's just act, and it's not the scary villain. When the villain comes out that you hated for 2 hours, everyone cheers like you would not believe, and then you can't believe, and then the hero comes out of the play, which is really you, but whoever the hero, and you think they couldn't get louder, but the roof comes off the place. So you need the villain, and you need the, you need the two.
Yeah, every character's playing their part that was
Yes.
assigned to them, and that's it. It's just as the guilt gets washed from our mind, then ultimately we can see the innocence behind it or beyond it.
Yes.
But that's it. That's the inevitable end of the script.
Thank you so much for coming on. So nice meeting you. So nice talking to you. And I think we covered a lot.
Oh, thank you so much, James. Yeah, it's just great
It's
to
not
join
over
with you.
till it's over. And it's never over.
It's not.
Thank you, Kirsten.
Oh, thank
I'll
you
see
so
you.
much.
Bye-bye.